Welcome, everyone, to Teach Me PCB. I'm Mark, your co facilitator this round, and I'm glad to be joining you tonight. So, office hours are really time for you, and I see we already have somebody waiting for us in the waiting room, and that is our friend Brian. Brian, welcome.
Hey,
How you doing, sir?
I'm hanging in. That's about all I can claim is just hanging in there.
That's all you can do. I know you had one heck of a rough week,
Yeah,
so
but keep it busy, which helps.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, how'd your projects go today, sir?
Well, that's my little stack of boards with the first of a string of hand wired NeoPixel little. They've got the NeoPixels as a little what they call a button. It's a little, just a little 10 millimeter um, board with a NeoPixel on it with solder pads on the back. So I'm going to wire a bunch of those together to go in the back of the panels for the dice, the
Nice.
glowing dice. So doing good. It's now I'm just got a bunch of printing to do. Um, each 5 panels of the dice, which means there's 4 per die, is about 3 hours, and I'm making 3 of them.
Whoa.
So it's going to be sitting there printing for a while. But
Sounds like it.
I don't think I've got too much more than I did the other night. I'm just kind of here for moral support and participation and all that. So
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, the last office hours with it was it Lucretia and Andrew. That was a lot of fun. So
yeah, it was.
hopefully we'll get some more people coming in. Um, for anybody who might be out there lurking on YouTube, um, if you're having trouble getting in, feel free to leave me a comment and I'll find a way to get you in. Um, but this week we're kind of looking over the schematic, trying to figure out what plan it is that you have with your design. Um, if you want to add more switches, if you want to have fewer switches, if you want to do something completely different, we're doing a preliminary design review over in the forums on the website, teachmepcb.com, where you can, post your idea and we can ask questions, offer feedback, all that sort of stuff. Next week, we've got the much more difficult task of making land patterns. You're going to be figuring out what the copper is going to look like that goes on your board. And when you get that figured out, you've got to make sure that all those copper pads that you put down are going to fit your part so that when you solder it on, it works. And it might not. I mean, we'll do some error checking, but it can end up being a thing. We don't want it to be a thing, but it'll take a little time. So,
Yeah.
And Brian, you've already mastered this because you're already making your own custom boards.
Well, I've got one designed. I don't know that I'll ever make it, but yeah. Um, it's right on the edge of being cost effective.
Right. This is your extruder project or something different?
No, that one was for this project. For the icosahedron with LEDs in it. Um, Adafruit has a board called the Prop Maker. It's a wing for their feather boards, and it's got an accelerometer, an audio amp, a NeoPixel driver, and one other thing that I can't think of. But it's meant for people building props, wearables, that kind of stuff. I wanted to use a different amplifier, and I was originally intending, okay, I'll take the Feather, which is the 2040 and all its supporting stuff, and I'll add those components to it that I want, and make just one board, so I can just have a board. But not sure you really want to do that. But then I started looking at just replacing the prop maker board with a custom board. So far, my cost of materials is just over $5, and the board sells for $9.95. So building a custom board and sourcing the stuff and soldering it myself, real close to not worth it.
Well, and shipping. When you take into account the cost to ship your board from wherever you have it made, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes we do it because it's fun, but unless you're able to, make something in mass, it's difficult to ever be cost effective.
Yeah. I would have, to really be cost effective on this thing, I would have to make it as a custom single board and have them manufactured and assembled, and see if I can come in under what is currently about a $40 cost.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's right on the edge of not practical.
Yeah.
But I have learned a lot about Eagle and Fusion 360 during the process. So that's a good thing.
It is. It is a good thing.
When I was taking my machining courses, one of our courses was SolidWorks. And to learn SolidWorks, I downloaded an old PDF of a model steam engine and proceeded to reproduce it in SolidWorks.
Cool.
It took me about 3 months. At the end of that, I had an animated working model in SolidWorks. And I knew a heck of a lot about the CAD work. So it's always good to take something existing and play with it, poke at it until you have some kind of conclusion. I still have a couple ideas for things I might want to build someday, but for right now, see how my macro pad comes out and see what else is floating around.
Very cool. Yeah, it's always a challenge when we do these courses to figure out what project is going to suit the most number of people, right? We've got, I think it's like we're at 467 right now, somewhere up in there. It's an insane number. So finding something that's going to work for that many people is challenging. But the nice thing about the macro pad is you've got some flexibility in there, right? You don't have to use 10 switches. You can use, theoretically, you could do thousands if you wanted to. I wouldn't, but you could. Or you could use 3 or 2 or 1.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty cool. If anybody's out there watching, I did put up a link in last week's announcements for feedback, and I'd very much appreciate you guys sending it to us. So if you have a minute, let us know just a few things, maybe your email, what company you work for, how many boards you order, and what you like about the course and what you don't. So let's see. We've got a couple comments coming in. And I would love to respond to it. I can't find a use for the keyboard project everyone is doing. I would like to do a simple microcontroller using a STIM32L476RG microcontroller. It's LQFP 64. And I would like to add the minimum components, a few LEDs and switches and terminals to bring out several other GPIOs. Do you think I would be able to solder the microcontroller on the board? So, Clarkster, here's what I would offer you. This is not the only time in your life that you're going to have the opportunity to design a board. You can do that the whole rest of your life. But if you go through the process with us, what we have set up for you is not just the board design, which is important, but we've also got, I haven't really advertised it yet because we're still working on it, but it'll work out. We've also got a software simulation of our project so you can learn to program it. And we've also got other people that are going to set up, and everything is kind of built around everybody doing the same project. See, the trouble is, if you do go off and do your own thing right now, instead of hanging with the group, nobody is really going to be able to help you. You're going to be kind of lone wolfing it. So when we're doing schematic review and everything, nobody's going to understand anything about the STM32. So it makes life a little more difficult. Now, nobody's saying you have to go out and order this board, right? Nobody's trying to make money off you. But I would encourage you to stick with the process. And then when when the course wraps and you've got the rest of your life, you can pursue the STEM 32 with a skill set that'll hopefully allow you to get there, allow you to get to there. Now, LQFP64 is small. Will you be able to solder it? I don't know. It will be challenging. I don't know your skill set, so I don't know if you're going to be able to do it or not, but man, it's going to be tough. Those are some fine pitch. I don't know the LQFP64 form factor off the top of my head. I want to say that's around less than 0.5 millimeter pitch. It's going to be tough. Brian, I'll look that up. Do you have any thoughts on him going off and doing this site or this project instead of the keyboard?
Like you said, I would think that the soldering is going to be the hardest thing. And I'll agree that having at least a similar project is going to make use of the course resources better. I do understand the not being able to make good use of the macro pad. If it wasn't for the fact that Adafruit sent me one of theirs in the last Ada box, and I just spent some time just messing with it, I probably wouldn't even have a clue what I was going to do. But yeah,
the thing about the macro pad is it takes us all along the same path. Yeah. Now, when this course wraps, I have absolutely no use for this. None. Because I have something that's far superior, the Stream Deck. Right? All programmable. It interacts. The software is great. This is a means to an end. It's to teach how to do some basic stuff with board design. This is way superior. This suits my needs far better. But I can't teach you what that works just looking at it, And as far as, what that size looks like, do I have anything handy? Let me see if I can illustrate to you the headache that you are inviting into your life. 0.5 millimeter pitch. So these are all spaced 0.1 millimeter pitch.
No, 0.1 inch.
Yeah, 0.1 inch It's not millimeter. You're right. 0.1 inch pitch.
2.54 millimeter. Yeah.
2.54. I am so sorry. You're absolutely right. 2.54 millimeter pitch. That 64 pin QFP is going to have pins spaced more like this device here. It is way smaller, way tighter, way harder. Anything around 0.54, I would probably start definitely using hot air more than I would a soldering iron. It's just, man, it's going to be tough. Routing's going to be tough. I don't know if I would tackle that for a first project. Elliot's saying, what do we have from Elliot? Hey, just joined. Got a question on soldering the Pico. Yes, sir. What's the strategy for hand soldering the test points on the bottom? Those are USB connectors, right? Okay, that's a great question, Elliot. So I kind of screwed up my board here. As you can see, these things don't line up because, well, I failed. But Jesse's and my plan for hand soldering that was to make these PTH, plated through hole, because that gives you access to it. So you put your Pico down, and now you have access to those holes. That's the plan, Stan. It's a good plan, had I not screwed up my thing. Okay, back to Clark, but back to the LQF P64. It would probably need a stencil in either a heat gun or a reflow oven. Yes. Like I said, I don't know your particular skill set. You might be able to do that by hand. I would have limited success. I could probably squeeze one out, maybe, but it would be kind of hit and miss. You would really want to go the traditional reflow route with hot air and stencil. It's going to be hard. I don't want to mispronounce this. Anubov? I was thinking of putting hole below the test points. Yep, that's what Jesse and I did. And then Clarkster. Hey, no. Hold on. I am a man of limited soldering skill too. We do have people that can do it, like Sebastian Weber, who's in the course, or he's at least lurking in the Discord. He's got a skill set I don't. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, I just don't know. I don't know. Hey, I got your name right. Woohoo! Well, welcome. And by the way, Clarkster, man, if you want to join us on screen, do you know how to get here? It should be in the Discord, the link anyway, if you do want to join us. And I think it might be in the video description. So, all right. So what other questions can we answer for you tonight? Or I guess it'll take a minute for people to see that. I think we're on like a 30 or 60 second delay. But yeah, I'm here for you. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, let me know. So Brian, do you have any projects on your bucket list? Anything that you just kind of like to get out?
One thing I've always wanted, I'm not quite sure I would actually use it at this stage, but one thing I've thought of, I thought of buying a commercial one, put it that way, is a MIDI controller for audio editing.
Ooh, okay.
Because most of the audio workstations, when you're mixing music and that kind of stuff, they respond to the MIDI commands. So you can have a deck that's got play, pause, track select, sliders, all that kind of stuff. I will, if I do it anytime soon. There was some discussion. I want to say somebody brought it up the first week of class. There's a product called Trill, that's a little capacitive slider sensor. You could slide your finger up and down and get like 20 different, 20 positions on a little strip of wafer. I'd put a bunch, put a series of those on a board with, a couple buttons for each one. And then a big, like I said, play, pause, fast forward, reverse, all that kind of thing. I do some music editing from time to time, and if I ever get to the point where I want to actually record something again, it would be a really cool thing to have. I've been tinkering quite a bit. A lot of the Adafruit stuff. I've been messing with putting boards together next to each other, and I'm just starting to get my head around. Okay, I could make something. It's a new thought. So I don't know. I don't have anything else really that I can think of.
That's cool, though. I mean, music is always a popular thing. Capacitive touch is all very cool. Integrated circuits to learn how to use. You could, they do have integrated circuits that have capacitive touch built into them, like Texas Instruments MSP 430. I think it's the FR2633 subseries. They're a little harder to program, but doable. Analog, ST, there's a name that's escaping me right now, have standalone capacitive touch chips that you could hook up to the Raspberry Pi Pico, or you could hook up to an Arduino. So you would design your capacitive touch sliders, you would put in this integrated circuit, and then you would communicate with that integrated circuit over I2C or SPI.
That's what this Trill does. Is it's the way they sell it. It's a little single board with a capacitive touch on one side and whatever the chip is on the other. And I was looking at this, it's all open source hardware. So I would just pull their, if I was going to make it into a board, I would just pull their schematics and boards down, copy and paste them and make, and just have it all on one board. But we'll see.
I think the ESP32 does capacitive touch also.
Oh, there you go. Well, we've got Elliot joining us of Elliot Makes. Welcome.
What's up, guys?
How you doing tonight, man?
I came to ask one more question.
Okay, what can we do for you?
The LEDs you picked out, they look like they're compatible in every way with the WS2812Bs. Is that correct?
Hopefully, yeah.
Good. I have some, so it's like checking out the data sheets. They look pretty much compatible.
They should be. The reason that we chose those instead of doing like a reverse mount LED, we just figured that would be a little bit much for everybody's first board. But most circuit boards, they actually shine the LED from the backside. They're little back blasters. Where is my... Oh, here it is. I am going to go to an overhead view here. This is the Adafruit Macro Pad. These are smaller. They're still solderable, but then you've got to be very careful to line up the LED so that it shines through a slot in the key itself. And we just didn't want that much hassle of people soldering on both sides of the boards and, just being a thing. So we picked out the 5050s. They're bright. They're big. That was pretty much it.
don't look at them directly. I can tell you that.
But you also don't have to run them at full power, right? You can crank them down a little. So what project were you working on with those RGB LEDs?
Oh, let me see if this cord is long enough, and I'll just show you. So I've been making some clocks. That's the classic word clock situation. So yeah, I'm like mirrored on the camera, but it's
you're not on ours. On ours, it works.
It's 11 by 11, so it's just running off a USB. There's an Arduino Nano in there, or one of the clones, and it's, I don't know, works pretty good. Just don't look at it without something in front of the LEDs at full brightness, because it will hurt your eyes for sure. But yeah, I've been making these off and on for the last while. Kind of fun, but it's a challenge to make them efficiently. The faces I've got are a stack up of laser cut wood and then some kind of like paper or other diffuser behind it, and then I've been pouring epoxy into it. So it's kind of a fuss to get that to set up without any bubbles. Springs a leak, makes a huge mess, but that's what I've been using them for.
Very cool, man. Hey, since we're showing things off, I will show you something that came in this week.
Yeah, stickers.
Right? Oh, wait, it gets better. It gets better.
Nice.
Wait. So yeah, I'm going to have to gear up for part shipping here pretty quick. For those people that are going to do the standard project, I'm not shipping switches because that ended up being a little too prohibitively expensive. But everything else, we're going to ship out, the resistors and whatnot here coming up pretty quick so that they are there when you're ready to order your boards. So that'll be fun.
Right on. I was doing an experiment earlier. Figured I'd share it here with you too. So this, I can't get very close because my wire is only so long. This is a Keyswitch on a little tiny board that I made for panel mounting these things. But I have there's a couple of pictures on Discord, but you can get a 50/50 LED under one of these switches on the same side of the board and shine it through the hole if you really try. So if anyone's brave, it might be interesting.
So you've got yours underneath the keycap, outside the switch, but under the keycap. Yeah, that's...
It's actually halfway, and it's underneath the switch where that hole is. So let's see how zoomy this thing is. That hole that you can see through has a bit of a recess, at least in this brand of switch. And you can fit an LED pretty much square under it, at least like 60% of the way. It's enough to shine through, and even with a keycap on top, it illuminates it pretty good.
That's pretty good. I suppose you could also do the whole X-Acto knife carve thing if you needed to too.
I did a little bit of that. It made it much easier, but if you're brave, I think you could probably make a footprint with both of those things in there and make it happen.
Do it. Where did you source your key switches?
This was some random box of like 50 of them for like $13 off of Amazon. I bought them because I needed like 3, but you can get a full set for not much money. So,
well, if you see that, maybe share that on the Discord or in the course. That could be valuable to people.
Sure thing.
So what do you guys like about the course? What can we do differently? Elliot ran away. There he's back.
My computer hates my camera.
I will ask you this. Let me direct it a little more. I didn't feel like there was a great response to the wiki last week. And I had one planned for next. So next week, people are going to be making their own land patterns. And I'd like a way for us to be able to share those. So asking somebody to make land patterns for all the parts in the kit, that's a few hours of work. For people who don't have that amount of time, I'd still like them to make one or two of their own, but maybe we could share amongst the course. What do you think would be a useful way to do that?
Can you link them into that same database full of parts?
I could do a database. Yeah.
I mean, if you could use the same one we've got already, we don't have to enter the information twice, right? Just link a file to it.
Should be doable. I'll have to figure it out, but I can work on that tomorrow. Does that work for you, Brian?
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, you are muted, sir. He doesn't want to talk to us. Still muted. No more Brian. No. That's okay. All right. He'll figure that out, I'm sure. We'll get him in a minute. Yeah, I could absolutely link the database. The other issue that we had too is there are a lot of lines of communication right now. YouTube, like what we're doing right now, we've got the course, we've got the forums, we've got the Discord. It's a little much to keep up with everything. Any ideas on how we could streamline things a little?
Do you only want my ideas?
Well, until Brian unmutes himself, yes, I do.
Discord's nice if you're around all the time because you can interact quickly. But maybe, yeah, I'm not sure how to make it better. I think for the live streams, having a schedule slightly further in advance. I didn't know this was happening until whatever I signed on. So if we had a bit of a calendar set up, that would make these easier, I think, for more people to attend.
I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but
there already is one and I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
Yeah. The course has a calendar in it. I announced these back on like Sunday or Monday.
Yep, but I caught when you announced like Monday and Tuesdays. I didn't get anything beyond that. So
sorry. Okay, so I need to be a little clearer. But yeah, I don't know because we've got Halloween coming up, so nobody's doing anything this weekend. But I added them to the course calendar, and then also we've got some online content, some streams, some YouTubes with professionals that I've also posted in there. So like today we had a high reliability webcast with Greg Zeraldo that almost didn't happen because we couldn't find the password to the account. We were a little late there. Next week, Greg again and I are going to be on Hack-A-Day, Hack Chat. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those, but those are kind of fun. Is it the week after that? I want to say the 10th. We've got Yuri Shaked of Walkwe, who's going to show us the digital simulation for our projects. So people can start, the programmers among us can start programming their boards even before they finish designing it, which I think is pretty cool. And then I need to schedule some more people, but we're going to have people that come out to teach us about how you would set up board testing. That's going to be a very popular one if you can make that. And I don't know because Keysite's very busy, but I might be able to get Keysite to come on and talk about test equipment and how to best use oscilloscopes, that sort of thing. But that one's going to be really iffy. Everything else is for certain. It's just finding the time.
I'll look at the calendar this time. It'll be much easier.
I haven't updated next week yet. I'll have to do that tomorrow and figure out what we're doing. But yeah, obviously though, if you didn't see it, it wasn't clear. So I need to work on that. That's an issue, right? Just because I think I'm being clear doesn't mean I'm being clear. So, Brian, did we get your audio back? Or are you just chilling over there, my friend?
Chilling.
chilling. Okay. I kind of see like he's talking, but I can't hear him. So that's okay. Maybe he's on a call or something. I don't know. So, Elliot, tell us more about other projects you'd make.
Oh, geez. The junk on the bench behind me is a wiring harness for a motorcycle that I didn't feel like building in the shop, so it's all glued down to a piece of plywood and got all the endpoints, and I'm just making up all the parts in between. Geez. You can't see it down there, but behind me there's a inverted camera turntable. So instead of rotating an object to film, it orbits a camera around a stationary platform. Kind of interesting project. It's just a single stepper motor with ESP32, and the point of that is so that it can be controlled remotely and programmed. So it's got a simple, host its own web server, connect with your phone, run the thing. But you can adjust acceleration, and it also has, actually, if I can find it, this is the box we've got for it. This is the key. Wait, I can't point at it. This is actually the same key switch on that little tiny board. It's panel mounted, so if I had the right tool, I could open this up. But I was going to show you one thing, which is probably locked inside this box right now, is super easy way to get Bluetooth like shutter control over a phone onto one of your gizmos is buy one of the like $3.50 Bluetooth remotes, open it up, solder to the switch contacts, and then just hook it to your project. So you can Bluetooth to Android, and I think what's more difficult is iPhone these days because they're untrustworthy with their Bluetooth connections. But you can add Bluetooth camera control to like anything. Super easy.
Oh, you cheater. I like it.
Yeah. I was going to, not an expert by any means, and was struggling to get both the standard Bluetooth libraries and the Wi-Fi library inside of the ESP32 at the same time. So that's my plan B, is cheat.
That's always a an adventure. The electronics you can figure out. The code, you don't got the RAM. You don't got the RAM.
Yeah. So there's probably another million things in here, but they're stashed away or in a pile.
Yeah,
All up
implementing
on shelves you can't see behind me.
So I imagine those don't use the full Bluetooth like 4.1, but they probably use Bluetooth 5 or Bluetooth LE. And implementing the LE stack is not trivial. It's pretty complicated. Fortunately, a lot of the microcontrollers take care of everything from the physical layer on, so you don't have to worry about the forward error correction and all that. But I had to do a project a while back where I had to worry about all of that. Forget it. I mean, there's no way that you're not going to make a mistake. It's a very intensive, multi-tap shift registers and all this stuff, data whitening and forward error correction and Vitrebi filters. And had it been an option, like had I not been paid to write about that, right? If this was for a project, I would have gone Elliot's way.
Yeah. It's a challenge. And the other thing is, like, when you make these kind of hobby projects, make 1 or 10 or 15, get them in the hands of people that don't have time or willingness to go and troubleshoot all the possible problems. Like, really helps to keep things as simple and stupid as you possibly can, because you don't want the phone calls.
No, it eats time. So you sell these or give them away, or?
This thing's still in prototype, but my uncle had the idea and he's doing the mechanical parts, and I've offered to pitch in with some. He had a DC motor, a drill battery, and a potentiometer, but it didn't give good results in terms of like being smooth and slow. So that was an opportunity to pitch in. But maybe they'll go up for sale at one point. I do have a product, another like Etsy DIY situation. This one was on Hackaday. It's been reposted a lot of places. So it's super simple. It's a dang. Yeah, this mirror thing screws me up. USB cord. There's a AT Tiny 85 in here on one of those DigiSpark boards, and then a button. And it does kind of what a macro pad does, but it's one button. And it's a zoom mute button. So it just does a Alt A and then Alt whatever. But really handy for meetings in Zoom because their keyboard shortcuts will bring the Zoom window into focus at any time. So you can be off browsing the internet, doing your thing when you're supposed to be paying attention. Smack the button, it'll unmute you, and it seems like you're paying attention. So kind of fun. I just put it inside of, I don't know. The easy part's the electronics sometimes. Hard part's like putting it in a package and making it robust. So this is a piece of steel. It's like, not 1/8 inch well, but it's pretty heavy. And just a square tube, rectangular tube. Just put a bunch of slices in it, one hole in the top, and then a couple laser cut pieces of wood jammed in the end. Makes a pretty reasonable little enclosure.
Definitely looks clean and not too much work. I'm surprised it's not in an Altoids tin.
Right? Those have kind of gone out of style, right?
No, they have
Nope.
not, Elliot. People just stop
I've got a
believing.
pile of them.
So very cool. Brian, did you have any other projects you want to share?
I do have one that's I think I mentioned to you before that I'm working on putting together a thing they call the mostly printed CNC. It's a small router, and one of the things that the original doesn't account for is speed control on the spindle. So you've got in my case, it's a little DeWalt cutoff tool thing that's 24,000 RPM, and you're stuck with it. And that's not good when you're trying to do good, clean, accurate cuts. You want to be able to control the speed. So there's been various things I've read about doing a PID controller for and putting it on the motor control, using it to control the motor. You put a little. They haven't even used a rotary encoder. They just put a stripe of white out on the side of on part of the motor with a optical light sensing diode to get the how fast it's going, and then a triac circuit to actually control the motor. But the way most of them, the way they've done it, I don't really like, and I'm going to be experimenting. Gotta love high voltage.
Yeah. That's cool, though.
I'm going to try to share something. Let's see if this works. Select window or screen. Oh, if only I knew which screen was which. All right.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so that should be web browser. So I've done one. A buddy of mine printed it. This is his, but I wired it up. So that's like
very familiar.
I want to say it's 2 by 2, but the working area is like 18 inches square. He went with a full size router, like I think it's the red Harbor Freight one, but not the cutoff tool. And let's see what else we got. This was very handy. So I saw a trick a while back for making cable chains on a budget. It's a tape measure with a cable sleeve over the outside, and add some heat shrink to it. Because you know how they work like snap bracelets. They're self-supporting. So you can build these like floating cable chains that keep your wires from getting all tangled up in the pulleys. Super easy. I highly recommend that. That's a pretty cool trick.
Yeah,
And
I've seen that. I'm planning to put that on. When I
Yeah,
get to
first
that
time
point.
I've seen that. That's clever.
it's super clever. And then yeah, speed control on those AC like tools, you lose pretty much all your torque if you slow them down. So even the ones that those routers that come with little knobs, they're not amazing. But get single flute end mills and just go crazy. This would be my advice. But
Yeah.
built I think this one's using Marlin firmware, so it's like a Mega with a ramps board, basically out of it. I
Yeah,
think I stole it
pretty
from a
much.
3D printer. And the one thing I did was added a relay and used one of the output pins for the spindle and wired it up to it actually like a 120-volt outlet. So you can control the spindle through software, at least on off wise, but not speed. And that's just in a big old box here.
Huh.
Works pretty good. Loud as hell. Routers are
Yeah,
loud.
I can imagine.
Well,
What about the stability? What about the rigidity of it?
It's, I mean, it is what it is. If you take light cuts or don't do a lot of like slotting, it's actually not bad. You don't go too fast, but it gets the job done on wood, plastic. It's no problem. Aluminum even is good too, but the the hardest part is with the thing whipping around at 20,000 RPM. It you can't push it fast enough to get a good chip,
yeah.
and you can't take a good chip without bogging it down. So you have to go for the fewest flutes you can, and then whatever, just tolerate making billions of slivers if you're cutting metal, because that's all you're going to get. Sawdust with wood and splitters with metal.
So why would somebody choose that over, say, one of those the eBay CNCs?
Good
Cost
question.
or workspace or just
You can
Size
go,
is one.
yeah, you can go as
The
big as you want.
typical eBay thing is about this big. You get a
Well, let me
4x6 the work area.
Yeah.
And you could build this that claims for under $500. Depending on how you source some of the hardware, yeah, it's going to be, it's cost compared to something of the same size. The commercial ones, when they get that big, are 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, something like that, in the that kind of a range. The cheap ones you see for $200 or $300 are they're really small.
This is halfway between those eBay ones and a Shapeoko, maybe a third of the way between them. So
Yeah.
you can go bigger. You can put a real router on it versus a little Dremel, which is good. And they are quite cheap, especially if you have, I don't know, it takes about 2 3D printers worth of parts and some time.
Yeah.
So it's not bad.
That's another thing that's going to keep my printers busy for a while. This is that's the router that I'm going to be using. And like I said, it's 24,000 RPM, single speed, but it will do the job for what I need. But what the top end, this end is a lot of empty space. You can pack a lot of circuitry in there to do the speed control. If you go that route, you can take it apart and basically do all the speed control internal to the unit, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's something to play with more than anything else. I would love to spend $10,000 or $20,000 on a CNC machine. I can't. So
How much room do you have? They're very cheap if you get big ones.
I don't think I could put a big, any of the bigger ones that I've seen, but they're still, I
Like,
haven't seen much under $4,000. So
yeah, you can get them at almost scrap prices, but they're 8,000 pounds. So, and they're almost all 3-phase.
Yeah, 440 volt. That was the other thing. You got to be able to power the dang thing.
yeah, you can get a good the uh, variable speed controls are getting really good now, so that's not as big a problem as it used to be.
That is true. My Bridgeport outside, I've got a 3-phase motor on it, and I got just a cheap eBay phase controller. I figured I could, get the Bridgeport running, and then, when that dies, invest in a decent phase controller. It's been 7 years.
Yeah.
Yep. I've got on my, it's not a Bridgeport, but it's a Bridgeport. I've got a static phase converter, just a solid state one. Works great. And on my CNC, I've got a rotary phase converter. Also works great.
Yeah,
So
no issues at all.
it's not bad.
So, all right, gentlemen. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. I need to go grab some dinner. Before this office hour, I had office hours for another class, and I think I'm done. But it was really great having you guys join me today. I will work on making the calendar more visible, Elliot. Thank you for sharing that. And I'd like to thank the guests, Anubhav Clarkster, for joining us in the background. Anybody else who maybe was there but didn't comment, thank you. Brian, I know you're having one heck of a week, man. Thanks for making time for us.
Yeah, thank you.
No, absolutely. And Elliot of Elliot Makes, thanks for sharing some of your creations.
You betcha. This is what I do in my spare time.
All right, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye.